we look at the use of the hooded katar. This is the Kitsune clan, a group of sword enthusiasts who like cosplay, reenactment, and historical martial arts. If you have similar interests, feel welcomed. Unbelievable! This is already the third video in which we deal with the Indian katar type dagger. If you've missed the first two ones, I'll link them in the description box. There are so many types of katars, and we have already figured out some of the weaknesses of the common katar. One of them being, although the hand feels kind of protected, it actually isn't really. At least if you not pay careful attention. We've also already indicated that the hooded katar will solve some of these issues because the hand is better protected in these weapons. And if we look in museum collections, thanks again here to all the museums that provide their images for free on the internet, we can see that hooded katars are in fact a common variation of the katar. We can also see the blades are often a bit longer and thinner than many of the normal katars, and the hand protection reminds a bit of a small buckler, but with an additional little hook for possibly catching a blade or prohibiting a blade from slipping. Here's our self-built training version of it. If you want to see how, I have included that in an earlier video. Link is again in the description box. So, this hooded katar can in principle be used as the normal katar, striking a blade downwards, using it to displace the blade, so kind of versetzen in German longsword, and then we can control the sword of the opponent. Rather easy, rather similar to the normal katar. Due to the hand protection, it can do more. For example, see here, it can be easily used to disarm without any further problems, almost like you would have an additional prong. You don't even need the second hand if you do it right. If you look carefully, it's not catching at the hook. It's just about the orientation and the little bit of protection of the hand that disarms here. But we can use the hook for disarming, like here. Just moving upwards the katar leads to the hook catching in between blade and fingers. Yes, our hook is a bit larger than in the historical ones. That's mostly not to squeeze in the fingers and injure them. And this is more than a disarm. Look at the control you can have over the blade of the opponent. I can choose where to throw it. In this case, right in the face. That's a thing. At first, disarming with this hook that is basically somewhere in your forearm is kind of strange, because usually there is no structure with which you can hook in and do something. But there are in fact a lot of possibilities how to use this structure. You know, I was at first skeptical about the functionality of this structure, but it really works out. It prohibits sliding of the blade of the opponent, and it gives an astonishing control. So I'm happy with it. And now something more experimental where I don't know about the historical detail. In theory, you can take a hooded katar in half sword because the blade is usually longer. Then the hook is still there, but in a different position, and it can be used for different things, hooking the opponent. I'm already a fan of the hooded katar. And I'm a fan of half-swording, and if I can half-sword this thing, I'm even a bigger fan of it. But let's get back to the hook, because we can not only disarm, we can also use for arm bars. And as pointed out in the original ones, the hook is a bit smaller, so this would then act as a pressure point against the joint and would be even more painful than here with our training device. I really like joint locks, and this makes me like the hooded katar even more. In free play it behaves rather interesting, you can act with it, and did you see it here? It's free play and I managed to disarm with the hook. Here, once again in detail, just because I'm so happy about it, you can see it really can happen by moving along, and then there's the disarm. It's overall, in fact, a bit more relaxed than with the normal katar, because your hand is better protected. You can easily go in, but the longer blade also has to be taken into account and can sometimes be tricky to handle. After some time, we also had to recognize some disadvantages of the overall construction. In some cases, when we were moving in the direction of sword wrestling, it was not so easy to use the katar. It was sometimes locked. Look here. If I go the Wing Chun Jet Kundo idea and lock the elbow, I can make the katar immovable for a certain time. Just to demonstrate it here, look, locking the elbow means the katar can basically no longer reach me. If we do that with a normal blade, there's still the possibility that I get hit and I have to have more control. Despite this disadvantage, I have already praised the hooded katar now, and we also know that it's, for example, tricky to disarm, even more so than a normal katar. So why, if the hooded katar has so many advantages and was very popular, why did it disappear? Or let's say, why was it substituted more and more by the shorter and unhooded, so the normal katar? For once, the normal katar is a bit more flexible in one aspect. It can be used together with a dal, so a small buckler type shield, and then has a lot of the characters of a hooded katar, but it also is possible to have it without the hood. That's not possible with the hooded katar. And then there's simply the problem of carrying your weapons around. It seems common in Indian warfare to carry a lot of blade weapons, but you somehow have to store them on your body. And the hooded katar with this huge hilt is trickier to store somewhere. If I simply put it into one of my belts, it really stands out. With my modern inspired gear here, I can of course carry it a bit like a P90, so hanging down from the hook, but then the sharp blade is still exposed and could cut me. I could even go for the Stargate SG1 method for carrying the P90, but that might be even more dangerous. So I guess the hooded katar has a problem of carrying. Hope we could inspire you. See you around next time.